the US consuming about 48 million pounds of uranium and producing less than a million, with goals to quadruple their nuclear capacity. So there's just such a big momentum behind uranium in the United States right now. I mean, we did 48 drill holes last year that was, roughly 230,000 Canadian dollars. So my goal specifically is to be able to say in, 18 to 24 months, I want to have, 15 or 20 million pounds of compliant resource on the books.
All right, everybody, welcome back to The Next Big Rush. I have here with me a guest that's been here before, but is here with a very, very new and interesting company that is right up my alley. So by definition, you're going to enjoy it too if you've been following this channel and you like uranium and the USA together in the same sentence with Noble Plains Uranium. Here's the president himself, Drew Zimmerman. Welcome back, Drew.
Yeah, Fabi, great to be back on with you and exciting about the new story with Noble Plains.
All right, so we've been talking offline before we, turned the camera on, and we were, kind of going on about the situation in the USA and why uranium in the USA is, as I have been saying for several years, by the way, I like to take credit for that every now and again. It's really the place to be. I mean, like I say, don't get me wrong. There is lots of opportunities in different parts of the world. North America in general is a great place to develop uranium. And sometimes finding uranium makes it super difficult, if you're in certain jurisdictions. But in the US in particular, why is it that that's attractive to you right now? Because you've been in the space, for a number of years, and you've seen the money flow from here to there, and you've seen the different companies doing different work. Why the US and why now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, to start really, really high level, as we were discussing, it's been, a changing world, and a world that changes maybe dramatically and quickly under the Trump administration. But we had, decades of globalization where it was all about, just-in-time shipments for supply chains. And that's dramatically changed. I mean, maybe a big kickstart to that was COVID when things locked down. But now it's become a little bit more geopolitical than that. And we're seeing critical supply chains, especially where these elements, they may not be, a huge portion of a manufactured good, or in uranium's case, the energy to manufacture that good, but they are incredibly critical to having that good be finished and produced. So what we're seeing now is just I think a big drive to onshore what you deem to be critical. And there is a list of critical minerals. Obviously, uranium is on that list. And, in this sort of new age of AI and data centers, we're seeing energy be a big bottleneck to that race. And again, to kind of look back at it is, building into a bit of a geopolitical race. And the US wants to be a huge energy producer, and they've got, multiple executive orders and other government action sort of demanding that. They want to be winning the AI race. And they also want to be winning the nuclear race. And that is, the existing large reactor build out, the technology, the know-how, the workforce to do that. And then also the new sort of technology race behind nuclear, which is, your SMRs, your microreactors, the new HALEU fuel that will go into that. So the technology to convert and enrich to that level. So I think we're just seeing a lot of tailwinds, one, for the nuclear sector, and two, for needing domestic supply. I mean, we've now obviously, again, restarted a uranium reserve in the United States that will only buy domestic production. We think there will be other incentives that continue to push for further domestic production in the US, because again, it comes down to the US consuming about 48 million pounds of uranium and producing less than a million, and with goals to quadruple their nuclear capacity, which again would drive demand well over 150 to 200 million pounds, which just isn't there. I mean, at its peak, when the U.S. was the world's largest uranium producer, was 44 million pounds. So there's just such a big momentum behind uranium in the United States right now, and it is such a long-lived asset class. And again, exploration and development is at the very front end of that pipeline. We think there's going to be a lot of work to do for the next couple of decades in this sector, and that's why we want to be positioned well.
Yeah, they're pretty much signaling, or not even signaling, just straight out committing. At least, well, politicians, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but they're committing to virtually, coming to a point where they're going to have to consume as much uranium as is consumed by all of the nuclear power plants today. if you go far out into the future, that's what they're saying. Like, hey, we want to grow our fleet, and also, you mentioned HALEU. It's higher concentrated material, fabricated material, and you're going to need more uranium for that. And so, what they're saying is, we want to grow this by such an extent that not only does homemade material needs to be ready, the whole production of uranium needs to be safer. So obviously there's going to be preferred US grown, US produced, US everything in the next number of years. I think it's a new trend that we've crossed that bridge. We can't go back anymore for a number of years, and it's just not possible to get it all from the US, but there's still a lot of pounds to be had. And those pounds are probably going to go at a premium. I've been hearing that actually, as it is today, US pounds are going for a premium within the US. And I was just actually, looking at a few of your slides here, and I absolutely love, your opening kind of slogan or strategy. It says here, our strategy is simple, which, by the way, most companies of your size don't even have a strategy. So kudos to pointing that out. Our strategy is simple: build an inventory of pounds in the ground, not mines, generating maximum leverage with minimal dilution. Okay, great. I buy into the premise. How are you going to achieve that?
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten off to a good start already. Again, our first project was in Shirley Basin. It's our Shirley East. We had acquired that last year, did some early exploration work on it. And then earlier this year, we were able to acquire the Shirley Central, so very proximal to our Shirley East. That Shirley Central is bordering UR Energy, which is building a brand new satellite uranium facility. Some of their permitted ground for that process is actually on our mineral claims. So again, right next door, a lot of historical workings that we were able to follow to have us be very interested in that site, very dense clusters of drilling. So again, a project that we think, isn't a complete unknown. We know there's, mineralization. That's why they clustered their drilling the way that they did. And now it's just about going out there and being able to confirm some of that historical drilling and be able to put a number on it that's a compliant resource number. And then most recently, our move into the Powder River Basin, again, another significant basin in the Wyoming region. And this one is, right above Cameco's Smith Ranch. This is 30 million plus pounds of uranium that was only sort of put on care and maintenance in 2016 because of uranium prices. So again, a very significant region. And for us, this was 4,000 drill holes. So again, a known project with known mineralization trends that we were able to analyze and look at. So because so much of the exploration for uranium was taking place in the late 50s, 60s, 70s, and into the 80s, there is a lot of historic data out there that hasn't changed. And yes, we do have more modern exploration methods and ways to refine those targets, but it's being able to try and locate and find these projects that have historical working, some level of known resource that we think, one, we can bring a certain amount into a compliant resource with what is known historically, and then also still give us exploration upside to be able to expand that resource potential. So, all three of the projects that we have right now have, fit that bill, perfectly. A lot of exciting things that can happen from the known mineralization, even more exciting things that can happen with exploration upside. And that's what we want to continue to drive forward with. And the other key tenement that we have been putting out is we want them to be ISR amenable. So that's going to be a much lower capex when it goes through to development. It's going to be a much smaller environmental footprint to be able to develop the resource, and really just allow us, I think, to have sort of an all-in capex for a few million pounds plus in the ground to be very reasonable compared to what you're looking at for a traditional mine that needs significant resource base to spread that capex across those pounds. So for us, it's all about being able to build a portfolio of what we've already started building, and again, relatively low cost. I mean, we did 48 drill holes last year. That was roughly 230,000 Canadian dollars to do those drill holes, because this mineralization is shallow. The drilling method is much cheaper compared to deep.
That's very cost effective.
Very cost effective, exactly. So we think we've got sort of a strategy and a roadmap that will allow us to continue to work to not only upgrade the projects that we have, but to be able to search out other projects that sort of fit this checklist that we've built for ourselves and bring them into our portfolio. And I think what we've seen in the space already, some M&A happening at the end of last year, beginning of this year, is that defined pounds in the ground can be worth $4 or $5 per pound, and that's at $70 uranium. So what we're doing works and makes a lot of sense at $70 uranium, and we think if uranium prices go over 100, that $4 or $5 per pound could double, and that's where the extra leverage to a rising uranium market with a strategy that we have really comes into play and gets pretty exciting. And again, the exciting thing, I think, for both current shareholders and future shareholders is we are a 6 to 7 million market cap company right now. And again, already with what we've done and what we have in place and what we will be releasing to the market in the next couple of weeks and couple of months, we think underpins valuation much higher than where we are already. So a lot of growth when you're starting at such a small market cap valuation. And again, that's how we built this company. When I came on, we were a 3 million market cap. And again, we continue to just execute. And that's the exciting thing, is to be able to really build something that we think could be special, because we have so many different tailwinds behind us in the U.S. uranium sector right now.
Yeah, and you're building, so regardless of uranium retail sentiment, which, as you know, goes up and down very, very quickly for sometimes no reason whatsoever, you're actually adding pounds, on a per share basis. So at the end of the day, you're building value there for your shareholders. So you seem to be very Wyoming focused. Is that your single focus at the time? Obviously, you can't really, show your hand too much. And behind the scenes, I'm sure there's negotiation and different projects that are floating around. But is that the idea, to focus primarily in Wyoming, or are you branching out, looking at different states?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's worked out very well. We are centered only in Wyoming. We are, evaluating a entire pipeline full of different projects, and some of those are outside of the state of Wyoming. We do want to work to maintain our ISR focus as well. Obviously, the geology in Wyoming lends itself incredibly well to that. Same with Texas, obviously, production in Texas as well. But there's other great states to continue to look at good projects, right project, right jurisdiction, right price, could, lead us into Utah or Colorado, or some other states as well. So we are continuing to evaluate other states. Would love to continue to build a footprint in Wyoming. We think it's, just a great state to work in. We do want to focus on agreement states where, the NRC has passed permitting control down to the state level. So you're able to work with state agencies to move the projects forward. And we think more expeditiously than would be done otherwise. But yeah, we're focused there now. Really love being there. Would love to expand our footprint there, but definitely keeping our eyes and ears open for projects in other states as well, because again, we don't want to turn away a really good project at a good price just because it's not in the right state.
Yeah, really good project at a good price is right. I remember seeing that there was a project, I don't remember which one, that the company bought for absolutely pennies on the dollar. I think was it something like less than $50,000? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was looking at it and I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, huh, somebody did a good deal here. So somebody, was a good negotiator. So, great job on picking that up. And yeah, it's keep your eyes and ears open because if a good deal comes along, then I guess you're gonna have to jump at that. Okay, so what can shareholders expect moving forward, Drew? What kind of news flow are you guys just going to focus on getting more projects, or are you going to be drilling as well, developing some of those projects forward?
Both. We're keeping ourselves very busy, which is how I like to be. But we want to continue to develop the projects that we already have. So as we've already released, we're in permitting on Shirley Central. That's the project right next to UR Energy. We're working to acquire and understand a lot more of the historical data that's there, as well as get ourselves set to do confirmation drilling on those high priority sort of bullseye targets where we know there was very dense drilling done in the past. And again, that correlates to having higher mineralization and uranium mineralization in those areas. So again, being able to take a project that is, a question mark as far as pounds on the ground and give ourselves an indication of moving towards a compliant resource number would be a good value add very near term. So we're hoping that's going to be later this year. Shirley East, we're continuing to look at building on the original drill program that we had there, to again sort of follow up the smoke, so to speak, with these roll front deposits. You can kind of have the high grade ore body at the front, and we were thinking we're hitting some of the tails of it, but wanting to get into the richer zone there. And then I think a big value add for us is going to be closing on our Duck Creek project. Again, we've announced that. We've shown the map that has the 3-mile trend with over 4,000 drill holes on it. Again, this is data that our teams looked at and modeled and understood very well. But part of that closing will be releasing the updated or newly done 43-101. And the important thing there is that's going to give us, again, not a compliant resource, but a historical resource range from all that drilling. So sort of a bookmark of low pounds to high pounds. And then we'll go in and look to permit and do confirm drilling that we think will, allow us to move that sort of number from historic into compliant. And given our analysis, again, we think that if we're able to see what we think we will see in new drilling that matches the old drilling, it'll be at the higher end of that number. And that for us will be the first really, important sort of floor of value that you can have for Noble, because that will be a number that will point to for pounds in the ground. And again, as we were discussing, sort of the dollar per pound valuation method that we think, gives us a lift from where we are and something that we can continue to build on. And it will also allow us to talk about some of the exploration potential that we have at Duck Creek, which we think is, sizable given that district. I mean, we're in a district with 3 uranium energy properties that, have almost 20 million pounds right next to Cameco with 30 million pounds. We've got GTI and La Herma with 8.7 million pounds. We've got Pine Ridge with Global Uranium and Enrichment and Snow Lake that is a 25 to 50 million pound historic resource. So the Powder River Basin is something you're going to hear a lot more of. You're going to hear a lot more of it from us as we move, our sort of shallow mineralization into a compliant resource, but then also talk about the exploration potential that we have there. And then on top of that, it's continuing to evaluate additional projects that, again, we think we can bring in for the right price. That's, the right project that we can advance relatively quickly into a compliant resource. Our whole goal, my goal specifically, is to be able to say in, 18 to 24 months, I want to have, 15 or 20 million pounds of compliant resource on the books. And that's a significant company, but I think it's a roadmap that, if you look at it just as, hey, step back, how do you do that in 2 years? That's so fast, it's going to be very difficult. And I agree, it's an ambitious goal, but it's a goal that we're going to tackle, one day at a time, 1 week at a time. And I think as we start to stack pounds, the market can realize that, we have a pathway and a roadmap to be able to get there.
Like it's a big goal, but at least by putting it out publicly and then, working towards it, and people can follow along the story and see if it comes true. See if you guys, can build the pounds in the ground and people can follow along, make their bets, and see how it turns out. Really like your strategy. I absolutely love the jurisdiction of Wyoming, specifically within the US for uranium. And I want to close this out by just asking you to briefly tell me if you could just highlight some of your team members and the people who have so far made this possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Our CEO, Paul Cowley, geologist with 40 plus years experience all over North America, an incredibly good geologist at finding these projects, understanding them, and seeing how we can advance them. Our VPX, Brad Parks in Calgary, more of a background in the oil and gas sector, but again, as we look at well field development for ISR mining and uranium, a lot more transferable skills to the sort of deposits and the geology that we're looking at here. And again, really helping us evaluate the projects that we're looking through, because we are throwing a lot of material at our geologists. Most recently as well, we brought on Galina as a board member. She's with Skeena Resources. Again, this is a $2 billion precious metals producer in British Columbia. An incredible network in the mining side. She's been working for several decades to be able to bring that forward. We've got Lauren on our board as well. He had sold other historic uranium mine to Denison years ago. Very well versed in the uranium space, knows how to build a project from nothing to sellable size. And myself, I've joined from another uranium company that was in the Athabasca Basin, but I'm very involved in the uranium space for the last 4 decades. Love the space. I think there's just still so much growth opportunity, and being able to combine all of our networks, knowledge, know-how, and we will continue to build our team out as well as we continue to grow. But it's a team that's small, nimble, and hungry at the moment. So that's a good place to be and a good place to try and grow from.
Very exciting. Drew, where can people find out more about Noble Plains Uranium?
Yeah, I mean, easiest is our website, nobleplains.com. You'll get all of our news there if you sign up for that news link. You'll also get our Plains Perspective, which is a weekly newsletter that we're putting out talking about the nuclear uranium industry, just anything that we're looking at and thinking about in the space. And I think is a good little value add on top of our regular news flow for people signing up for that. And then on social. On X, we're trying to stay active and engage with people there as well. So a few different ways to follow us. But again, the best is subscribing for our newsletter and making sure you don't miss the news as we continue to put out key catalysts that we think will continue to drive value for us.
That's awesome. I'm going to sign up for sure. I didn't realize that you guys had a newsletter going out. So I'll be signing up for that and see what I can pick up, because let me tell you, even though I follow the space for a living, I cannot keep track of all the things that are happening. It's just too much at times. And so sometimes it's good to just sit down and read and see if I've missed everything. So thank you, Drew, for coming on and explaining this new opportunity here for us. And as I say, at the very least, add this to your watch list. You don't want to come here 18, 20, 24 months from now and seeing Drew build up all those pounds and having missed the whole run. Thank you so much, Drew. Take care, and we'll catch you soon when you have more exciting news.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Fabi. It was great to be back with you and look forward to chatting next.
Likewise.